And the standard formation that has been taken during these like you know dispositions is the Athenians have taken the left flank of the Greek line, the others take the center, and the Spartans and the Peloponnesians tend to take the right, as shown correctly in this diagram here. And when the Persians would line up, as you can see in the red line, you would have you know, the Bactrians, Medes, and the Indians who would be forming the center of the line in the Persian army. You would have the allied Greek contingent, like the Greeks that are fighting for the Persians on their right flank. So they would be facing the Athenian contingent. And then you have the Persian proper, who would be on the left, facing the Spartans. But again, no one is going to cross right now. And, the omens as well is suggesting that everyone needs to be defensive. And this is like what is reported to have happened in both camps. And I don't think the Spartans would be able to slaughter every animal like they normally do, because there are other Greek cities who don't follow that tradition and tend to go for, one sacrifice a day. The Spartans, on the other hand, we know would go through maybe 100 if needed.
Yeah, Mardonius has a
And
similar predicament because he's also continually sacrificing animals as well, and he can't get a good omen either.
if the first doesn't
He,
give you the right
yeah,
entrails, just but
yeah.
the I'll just say one thing: the disposition of the Greeks did open a big opportunity for the Persians.
Ma- so Mardonius is currently sacrificing animal day after day, and eventually he is going to run out of supplies because he can't just do this forever. He can't just encamp on the river Asopus for the rest of his life.
And at the same time, it's a similar problem with the Greeks. The Persians are also worried because reinforcements are also coming down from the
Yeah,
valley and strengthening the Greek lines over the days. Because while they did reposition the cavalry skirmish, which saw the Persian cavalry commander die, happened on the day one of the deployment, they repositioned on day two. Now an entire week has passed. Right, it's now day
yeah.
8. No one has really attacked, and the Persian advisors are worried about the Greek positioning strengthening and also their supply situation. But the same supply issues is also a worry for the Greeks. And on the ninth of the eighth day, Mardonius launches a devastating cavalry raid onto the Greek lines. So from their original positions, that's where supply wagons come, and they ambushed a massive convoy, which, according to some sources, had over 500 beasts of burden, carrying a lot of supplies for the army. And it was said that what they once they had their fill of the slaughter, like killing the man and beast without any care, the Persians had destroyed 120 tons of supplies and taken some back to their own camp. And this is pretty big. And the reason also why the Greeks are in this position is because of the spring, because it is estimated that the Greeks are requiring 300,000 liters of water a day, to sustain themselves. That is why they are at the spring here. So now your supplies are getting interdicted quite successfully by the Persians. You're also running out of food like they are. It's not a good situation for either army, in all honesty.
It can get worse because the Persians end up polluting the springs.
That is so true. And a lot of advisors actually wanted him to push back to Thebes, pull back the Persian army to Thebes so that they can restock, resupply. The Greeks are not going to have a improvement in their supply situation while they will be replenished. And they also said, guys, maybe we should just use some diplomacy and pry the Greeks apart, because I think the Persians are pretty aware how
Yeah,
disunited the Greeks are also.
yeah. This,
But
according to the
Mardonius,
authors, yeah, this is
yeah, I was just
Artemisius' suggestion, where he basically says, "Why don't you just pull back to Thebes, maybe even Thessaly, resupply there, and just come in another time? But before you go back in, make sure to bribe all of the prominent leaders in the Greek camp so they all defect to Persia and betray one another." Because in the
Or
Persian
just bribe
experience,
the
this
Athenians.
has actually
Just bribe,
worked. Yeah,
just bribe the Athenians. That's enough. And I'm pretty sure Mardonius was said, and this is what Astrobazus would do, but not what Mardonius would do, because that guy is now hell set on battle. So
yeah,
he does not want to do it. And on the night of the 11th day of the standoff, he gives a pretty impressive speech to the troops that rouses the morale. And on the 12th day, they actually do, you know, marshal into formation and, prepare to cross the river. Right. And we're talking about 200,000 combatant troops of, from heavy to light infantry, cavalry, missile units on both sides deploying on the plains here. But it is at this night that Alexander the First of Macedon slips out of the Persian camp to the Greek camp to warn them about the incoming attack. Because Mardonius is no slouch, also, because he's not just going to recklessly attack, he has made elaborate plans on how he's going to deploy his army, which he thinks is to the best strength of it. And Alexander the First arrives and warns Pausanias about the incoming, Persian forces. And an emergency war council is held late in the night. And what happens is the start of utter shenanigans for 2 days in terms of deployment. Because, as I mentioned, from the second day of the battle, it had just been the Athenians and their allies on the left, the Spartans and their Peloponnesians on the right, and an assortment of the Greek city states holding the center. What was decided is they are going to switch it up on the 12th day when the Persians are crossing to give battle. So that the Spartans are now going to face the allied Greek contingent, and the Athenians are going to face, the proper Medes and Persians. And when the dawn breaks, Mardonius sees that the allied forces have, they're switching around, and he then starts his own switcheroo of his wings because he's trying to redeploy his forces before they cross. And this is eating into quite a few hours of the daylight. And then a few hours later, he gets another message that the Greeks are reverting back to the original formation of day two.